Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag. With me today is my special guest, Town Manager, Prescott Valley, Gilbert Davidson. Gilbert, welcome.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks for having me on. I've watched a number of your podcasts, and you are, this could be your setup gig with post-retirement. Could be a professional podcaster.
I don't know that I'm that good. And we have like tens of viewers. We're getting to 11s, though. It depends. As long as we keep it shorter, we get more viewership.
Edgy, you know, and
right?
Start drawing.
No, I'm going to try. I'm trying to avoid the edgy thing. That's got me in trouble.
Egg this on?
No. Because we're talking about relationships today. This is our 6th episode in the Legado podcast series. This one we're calling the Town of Prescott Valley, according to Kathy. Is that correct? Because yes. Kathy's the producer and she decides. But following the theme that we've had since the Legado fire, we've talked a lot about, and I came before the town council and talked about how people see the fire, they see the fire engines, and they think fire district. There are a whole lot of other people behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, doing things, just like our conversation with Chief Teicher last week. But you answered the phone when I called you about 1:40, 1:45 in the morning. And I think that that's because of the relationship we formed since you've been here, and the importance of that. And you asked me one question: what do you need? Mm-hmm. And I said, I need not to lose water pressure. And your water department worked miracles, and we never did. So as we talked to the town council about, really these relationships with the community and the importance of what you do and the water department does can't be overstated.
I couldn't agree more. I think, from even before I started, you and I were able to connect.
Yes.
And I think, knowing that, and I've worked for many years where there was a fire district, so I understood the setup and that relationship. And, from that, first moment when we talked on the phone of really trying to make sure we had a good, open line of communication between both of our organizations, because we're both service-driven organizations. We're both taxpayer-funded organizations. And our whole mission is to help protect and serve this community and make it a better community. And so, I think from day one, you and I have been able to have a great working relationship. And like anything, when you have, people involved in organizations, sometimes there's differences of how people view things. Sure. But you and I being able to, when we get told, hey, we've got, a challenge here, or there's, staff's not, communicating well with each other, you and I being able to say, hey, let's talk through these issues and work on it. And I think that fire, that example, the highlight of that relationship was exactly that. It's like, what can we do to help support you in that moment?
Right. And again, the water department, just absolutely outstanding as always. They're great to work with. Your public works department, your police department, you directly. Mayor Palguta came out that morning to the scene to check on all of the responders. But there were so many people working that incident, and we didn't want them left in the shadows. We wanted to point out to the community, no, that fire was a community effort. The rebuilding of Legado is a community effort with the Fain family. And as Bob pointed out last week, just that relationship with the Fains, being able to call them and wake them up, unfortunately, and tell them, hey, your building's on fire, this is a problem. But having those relationships in advance, and even in those times where you and I might disagree about something, we can go sit down at lunch and come to an agreement. And that's one of the important aspects of really serving the interest of our community and the citizens that live here.
That's exactly right. And, when you called and we began that, the reactionary calls to all the other entities, and, the water, our utilities director, Neil Wadsworth, immediately got on the phone with Jacobs, and then the Jacobs crew, began all the things that they need to do to make sure that you guys had that water pressure and any other resources. And so I think from our perspective, being able to work with you, we say the same things back right at you. Knowing that we've got a highly responsive fire district, and you are working to really try to make sure that we have the right equipment and resources for our growing community. We are a dynamic growing community that has been Prescott Valley's history from day one. It is a place that people want to move to. And as a fire district, making sure that you're able to have the resources and the support from the town government
Right.
Is absolutely vital.
Well, and I think there's more that you and I have talked about that we're trying to work on, even from the contractor perspective, where eventually we'd like to have a laptop type kiosk in the permit section, the building section of the town, so that instead of the contractor having to leave your offices and then come to our offices or go online, they can simply turn to that kiosk, fill everything out at one time, and then the fact that we can get our folks together and sit everybody down in a room and be on the same page, because we want Prescott Valley as a fire district, we want it to be the best it can be. And working directly with you, and the same services and the same type of feeling towards our other partners, Chino Valley, Dewey, Humboldt, the Yavapai County, building those relationships. Even the city of Prescott, we don't serve the city of Prescott, but we do. I mean, really, with the mutual aid system, we do.
Yeah, absolutely. They were there that night.
Yes.
I do believe the Prescott Chief Durrett was there and hand in hand with you.
Yes.
And later that morning on April 1st, I received a call from their interim city manager who said, "What can we do to help support you guys?
Right.
If we need to send staff over just to fill in on things, if people are tired." I mean, that was touching. We didn't need the assistant, but just knowing that another entity in our area was willing to commit resources to help our team meant a tremendous amount.
Well, a lot of people may not know. I know we've mentioned it a couple times, but even Prescott Fleet Department came in and helped out. So we had a fuel truck going around because when you're running and pumping that long with those engines, you start to run out of fuel and death. And so Prescott Fleet Department came in and was right there working hand in hand with our fleet and making sure that the engines remained fueled up and ready to run and pump. So it was truly a joint quad city effort, and then expanded out with the mutual aid that we've talked about, countywide mutual aid and statewide mutual aid. But when we look at Prescott Valley, and you and I have talked about this, the fire district isn't the economic engine that's going to drive things in Prescott Valley. But if we're not working in partnership with you and your team, we can certainly be a speed bump, and that's not the partner that we want to be.
Well, and I would say, I mean, you are a part of that, economic development initiative, because without a viable, well-staffed, well-equipped, fire department, that impacts insurance rates for our residents.
Yes.
It impacts business decisions to come into our community, and they may choose to go somewhere else if they don't think they're going to have the level of coverage. And so I think it does go hand in hand. And you mentioned something I think is so critically important. Our two entities may not always see eye to eye, and that's good.
Yeah.
Because we need to make sure that from a fire perspective, you guys are looking at the code through your lens. We have building officials and code enforcement officials that may look at it through their lens. Our economic development people may be chomping at the bit to get, a store open. And so everyone is doing their part.
Yes.
But again, that's where that having a trust with each other, a respect for one another, we may not always agree on code interpretations, but knowing that everyone is doing it in the best interest of through their professional responsibilities.
Sure. Yeah, and I think with Daryl Turpak in place and a lot of the new folks we have in prevention, you see a lot of working together, and it's what I term it as is there's more education than enforcement. Right. And that's what they're trying to do, is really shift focus to, yes, we need to enforce the code, but we can do that better if we educate and take the time so that people understand the why.
That's right.
And even when we look at Legado, the Legado Fire, and I mentioned this to Brad and Ron, because they want their electric vehicles is a thing. It's not going to go away. But the danger of lithium-ion batteries isn't going to go away either at this point. And an electric vehicle fire plugged into a charging station inside a concrete parking garage, that vehicle can put up enough British thermal units, enough heat to damage a structure, an actual concrete structure. And so that's why we're apprehensive about putting charging stations inside the building. I talked to Phoenix, they're like, no, we're not doing that. So we've got to come to an agreement on, okay, if they were to go in on the first floor, how far in, so that we would be able to pull whatever's on fire out.
And that's the challenges that, we live in a rapidly evolving world with new technologies, and some of these things, have not been around long enough where we know what the hidden dangers are. And I think things like that are starting to come out. So it's, all right, now we know that. How do we start designing buildings possibly in a different way? Placement, you were just talking about is there a better place to put these things that won't have as great of an impact? And again, that's where, that communication and working together helps to produce hopefully a better outcome for our community.
Absolutely. There was something else I was going to talk to you about a little bit, because Ryan is here from the town, working directly with you. Ryan, I see you back there. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So the three of us are now Harvard Kennedy School graduates, senior executive of state and local government. When did you go, Gilbert?
I went in 2009, so a long time ago.
A little while ago.
Yeah.
Ryan, when did you go?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and I just finished my program there a couple of weeks ago. And I talked to both of you before I applied, and then once I was accepted, about, okay, what can I expect here? And I have to say, you did not overstate the level of professional development, networking, and the educational, I don't even know how to term it, but the level of education you get being at that campus with Harvard professors and MIT professors.
Yeah, I until someone goes through that program, you always hear, Harvard, and but the quality of the faculty and the depth of thought that they have, and the whole purpose of that program, one is being able to be, it puts you in an uncomfortable place in many ways.
Yes.
You're away from home for literally 3 weeks, away from work, which is very difficult.
Yes.
All of us are very tied into everything that goes on in our organizations. So there's that element of it. Then you're in with a whole group of other people from, in many cases, around the world. I mean, there's people from all over, and everyone has different viewpoints. And it's a fascinating process to be in that room together for literally 3 weeks, melding together, learning from one another, challenging each other, and then having that incredible experience.
Right. And one thing I want to say, because our viewership, Prescott Valley, Prescott area, whoever actually pays any attention to us at all, but it's
a highly rated show.
Yeah,
Chief. I mean,
highly rated in my own mind. But when you talk about Harvard and Massachusetts and Cambridge, the first thing that comes to people's mind is a bastion of liberalism. And the fact of the matter is, what you see in the news is not what you see in the classroom at the Harvard Kennedy School at all. In my experience, the professors there, they would take equal shots at both sides. It was awesome. And you knew they leaned one way, but it didn't come out. It wasn't overt in any way. And it was great to have that space where you could discuss differing ideas with people don't believe the same way you do, but be able to listen and hear and maybe come away with a slightly different perspective than you went in with.
Absolutely. I don't remember the exact professor's name because I attended many years ago.
Right.
But it was a constitutional scholar, and he knew the U.S. Constitution inside and out, and all the Federalist Papers. I mean, the intent of every single word in that document, and it wasn't about any range of the spectrum of the political spectrum. It was about the pure essence of that document.
Yes.
And I could have sat for hours listening to his stories and analysis of that Constitution. But you're exactly right. I think that the program it's a well-designed program that brings people from both sides of the spectrum to literally have those conversations, which we need more of. And they're done in a way where it's constructive. You're not left out on your own where maybe the passions and emotions can flare up. but it's done in a way where it can be very productive and you can come out of it learning from someone else a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great environment to listen to different people from other countries, work on different problems. The team that I was assigned to for our project was the vice mayor of a city in the Philippines, who, when he left, they had just declared a state of calamity because of a water shortage. And when you see the picture of the reservoir, the way it looked at that time versus what it's supposed to look like, alarming. But trying to work through that from the lens or perspective of the Philippines, which is a completely different governmental structure, completely different culture, and it just opened your eyes to that. And then, was it David King? Was he the constitutional?
Yes, that was the guy. Yeah.
He's now the director of the program.
Okay. All right.
And so Ryan and I had him.
Did he come in and talk about?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
It was great. Then Marty Linsky.
Okay, I had Marty, phenomenal.
Author of Leadership on the Line.
Yeah.
Amazing. I read that book back in 2005. And then to sit in there with the author who flies down from New York just for that program, it was amazing. And he challenges you.
Did he still have everyone memorized in the class?
Yes.
Did he say, that was the most, like, so the minute he walked into the room, he literally could, there were 70 some people in the class, 75 people in my class. I mean, he had memorized every single person's first, last name, their resume, where they were from, and he would just randomly call on people and their pictures. So he knew, and you were like, people were like looking around the room like, how is this guy doing this?
Yeah.
It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, there were 63 in my class, and there was a lot of practical application. As a matter of fact, they had a renowned economist come in and speak, and he kept, one of the things he would hit on was Prop 13 California. So at the break, I went up to him, I said, hey, I hear you're Prop 13 California, I'm gonna raise you a Prop 117 in Arizona. And I explained Prop 117 to him, and he said, you're never gonna get out of a hole. That is not sustainable. I'm like, yeah, we know that. And Prop 117 is directly related to fire districts and our funding, our revenue source. But to sit and listen to him, and then he gave us a PowerPoint that broke down so much data between the states and where we stood and housing and all of those things. And then an author of the book called Writing for Busy Readers. So I'm trying to use fewer words and shorten them. And he gave me access to an AI tool, which I was afraid of until the MIT professor came in and talked about AI. I'm like, all right, well, I could.
So you're now convert to the AI systems using,
to check things.
Yeah.
I don't want it to write anything for me, but I will have it check some things. And then there's a new tool he just added that can check for, because we know everyone reads at different grade levels, right? Just in general terms. Nobody reads at a doctorate level. And so now there's a new tool you can put it in. It says, well, this is at this grade level. What audience are you trying to reach?
Well, and I think AI, obviously, that's the new thing that we're going to be living with going forward. And I have found it helps me. Sometimes, we have to write a lot in our jobs, and I get writer's block all the time. I get distracted. I have people in and out of my office all the time. And so I've got to be in the right frame of mind to sit down and have a well-crafted message.
Right.
And sometimes that's really hard. So I found, like, if you ask the AI to just plug in, like, here's what I'm trying to write, and then it gets you started with some ideas. And I obviously will tweak a lot of it, but it at least unjogs some thinking, like, oh, that's a great pathway, and then run from there with it. So
yeah, it is a good tool, and that's what it is. It's a tool. A lot of people misunderstand it. They think it's the movies.
Should not be the end all be all, right?
No, because you can.
But
tell
it's going to be Skynet at some point.
It.
From Terminator, I'm worried about where we're
headed with that. So, well, Gilbert, thank you so much for coming in this week. We'll do this again on another topic. Wanted to compliment you and your staff on the July 4th events. My family and I, with some friends, watched the fireworks. They were hands down best show, and one of the better ones I've seen over the years.
Well, it's a great team effort. You guys are a part of that, helping with medical services and first responder services and planning services. Your team was at the planning table all the way through the thing. So it's a great community, and we've got a really good team that want to be able to deliver great things to the community.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for being here. I need a parts store on the north side of Prescott Valley because
We're
it's a
working
long
on it.
drive. Just I'll leave you with that. Kathy, anything to add before we go?
No, just a huge thank you from me as well for coming in and doing this podcast, but also for everything that happened with the Legado fire. And,
Thank you.
we really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Well, Ryan Gilbert, travel safe to Tucson for your conference. And with that, don't forget to like and subscribe.